Welcome, my fellow historians. Today I have a wonderful book for you about the Rebellion of 1837. It's called Canadian Violence, and it is written by yours truly. Once upon a time, the Canadian government was that of a colonial government. Now, a colonial government was not responsible or representative. This meant that the good people of Canada could not vote for someone to represent them, and if they didn't like the current government, too bad.
You see, the country was supposed to be run by a governor, but really it was run by an oligarchy. The oligarchy was a group of rich aristocrats who were on good terms with the governor. They had no interest in the well-being of regular people. There were two groups of oligarchies, the Family Compact of Upper Canada and the Chateau Clique of Lower Canada. In Upper Canada, land speculators were mostly a part of the Family Compact. As a result, they would put aside the Crown and Cleary reserves and take the rest of the good land for themselves and other members of the Family Compact. Ordinary settlers were left with land that they were unable to farm.
Luckily, there were people willing to stand up for themselves. People like William Lyon Mackenzie. Now, William was not one to do things in half measures. And he made sure that its disapprovals were heard by buying the Colonial Advocate, a newspaper. Will was soon elected to the Legislative Assembly. From there, he inspired many to take a stand and move towards reform.
Will was not the only leader that the Canadians had. In Lower Canada, the French inhabitants were discriminated, not used to British rule, and they were tired of it. Their leader was Louis-Joseph Papignon. He came from a seigneurial family, meaning he was well off. The French felt like they were under constant attack from the British. When a boatload of cholera-stricken Irish immigrants landed in Quebec, the French thought that it was an effort to kill them with disease. Louis and other reformers submitted their 92 resolutions to the government. It demanded complete change of the government. Their reply was 10 solutions denying the rights of the assembly. That was the last straw. The Patriots, led by Louis, rebelled.
Armed revolts were planned in Upper and Lower Canada because the British didn't have enough troops for both. Unfortunately, these revolts were not well coordinated and they were not supported by the Catholic Church.
In Lower Canada, the Patriot force was defeated in Saint-Denis, St. Charles, and St. Eustache. By December of 1837, most of the leaders and supporters of the Patriots were arrested. Louis escaped to the U.S.
Meanwhile, in Upper Canada, Will and the other reformers wanted an American-style government. All of their requests for moderate reforms were denied by John Russell's 10 resolutions. Also, the newly appointed Governor Francis Spalding Head sympathized with the Family Compact.
His zero tolerance for reformers would only provoke conflict. After he dissolved the assembly for reprimanding him, he won an election by supporting loyalty to Britain. Will took this as a call to rebellion. Will and other reformers' plans bordered on treason. One plan was to take the ammunition in Toronto and kidnap Francis. Will wanted to set up an entirely new government if his demands were not met. They started their attack, with little support, at Montgomery's Tavern on Yonge Street. While marching down the street, the rebellion ran into a group of militia led by Sheriff Jarvis. When the front line of the rebels dropped to reload, the rear thought that they had been killed and retreated. Will escaped to the U.S. dressed as a woman. Both rebellions had failed. The failed rebels faced quick and severe punishment. Flogging was very common. The major leaders were publicly hung.
So what was learned from all this? What was the point of all this planning and violence just to fail miserably within a year? Well, it helped shape the cultural relations and government that we know today. The French Canadians still hold some resentment towards the British today. It showed the government of Canada that the people will not tolerate abuse. Thanks to the rebels, we are not completely and utterly ignored by our government. Most importantly, the rebellion helped us as Canadians choose our representative for us in the government. Our voices can now be heard loud and clear, and if that isn't important, I don't know what is. As for what happened to the rest of the rebels, well, that's a different story. Now, wasn't that wonderful? Join me next time with Reading with Christopher.